Alright, so today's video is about the Ford Falcon Au series and the air conditioner on the car not working as well as it should, or not working at all. It's like 38 degrees today, it's like 100% humidity, it is roasting, and the old AU isn't working too well as far as air conditioning goes. So what we're going to do today is show why the vast majority of AU Falcons the air conditioning doesn't work too well, or it cuts out on a really hot day. If you've got an AU Falcon that's it's like a 40-degree day and the air conditioning's going along and it's cool, everything's great, and then it just suddenly cuts out and you can't get it to operate again until you pull over to the side of the road, turn the car off, turn the car back on again, start it up, and then the air conditioning starts working again. This is the cause of your AU Falcon and its air conditioner cutting out. So in here, in this section on the in the hose here, that's what's called an orifice tube or a throttle valve. This is a kit that I bought of orifice tubes. It comes with a huge variety of different orifice tubes. They have a different flow rate as to so on this side of the system, liquid is created and then the liquid is just dribbled through the brass tube in the middle there. It's filtered through this screen, the liquid, and then it's dribbled out this side, and it fills up the down here, the accumulator, which lives fucking down in here. You can't really see it, but if you go have a look in your car, you'll see it. So what you got to do is take your car to an air conditioning guy if the system is still gassed up. If your system isn't gassed up and it's emptied, then you don't have to worry about that, obviously. Because in this country we have some pretty horrendous laws as far as working on your own air conditioning systems. It's punishable by death or beheading if you do this work yourself, whereas ironically in countries like America, I think France as well, you're free to do whatever you want to your own air conditioning system. So yeah, it's great to be in Australia for this sort of work, one of the hottest countries. So anyway, this little throttle valve orifice tube lives in here. So what we're going to do is just spray some RP7 on the joining knuckle down here, and then I've already loosened this one off. You simply undo it. You have one spanner here holding it stiff and one spanner on here doing the undoing. So in here is, you've got a green refrigeration O-ring, and then in here you'll need to get a set of pliers, pull on the end of it, and then you can pull out your throttle valve. Okay, and there's my old throttle valve, and as you can see, when you compare it to a new one, take a blue one actually, it's a blue one. You can tell the difference straight away. So this one is completely and utterly clogged, which means the system isn't going to get particularly cold inside the car because simply the refrigerant can't get through. And what happens is when too much of a restriction is created through this screen here, the refrigerant that's in liquid form can't get to the other side. So the pressure on the high pressure side on your condenser at the front here, that's the radiator at the very front, in front of your actual radiator, the pressure gets too high, and of course the system simply, because the pressure's gone too high, the high pressure safety switch kicks in, and that's why your air conditioner turns off. And it's always on a really blistering hot day that this happens, and that happens because this orifice tube is completely and utterly clogged. Alright, so it's just a matter now of just getting a tube. I'm going to use red this time because that was previously the colour that was in this system. I've already worked on this system about 5 years ago. So the original one that was in it was red, so I'm going to go back and try that this time. The blue one was pretty good. The system was freezing cold, so we'll see what happens with this one in it this time. So I'll just stick her in, and we need to change this O-ring. So the O-ring kits, you can buy them, you know, online, places like Banggood and all those sorts of places. It's a nice set of refrigerant O-rings there. So I've already chosen the one that I'm using. Pull that off. So our new O-ring. Now what you can also do while you've got the system open is you can introduce into the system a bit more refrigeration oil, because all that clogged up junk that's on here is a mixture of metal and oil that's just formed a paste. There will still be some of it residual in the system. It just builds up over time. Eventually you've got to pull the whole system apart and just blast it out with compressed air, but the cars are getting so old now that there just really isn't any point in wasting half your life doing this sort of job. So if you've got the system apart, just put in a little bit of oil while we're in there, and you can either introduce it into the system later on when you're gassing it up, or you can just stick it in now. It's just a simple matter of just before you put your throttle valve in, you can throw it in through here, just pour some down here before you put the throttle valve in, and the system will just work itself out after you charge it up slowly, and the oil will just work its way itself around. It will just lubricate the inside of the system. And yeah, so all the equipment that you need to fix your AU Falcon's air conditioner is available on eBay, of all places. You know, you can buy a nice manifold set that comes with the whole kit. You know, this whole kit, it's $58 including freight. It's just ridiculous. You can buy yourself a nice vacuum pump that costs $85 including freight. So why would I pay someone $400 to do this when I can do it myself off camera? And the gas I'm going to use, I'm not going to do it on camera because I'm not a moron, is this type. This is 134A in a convenient pack where you can legally put it into the atmosphere with a squirt handle. Oh look, I'm putting 134A into the environment, and I can do it legally according to Australia's frickin' HVAC laws. But for me to put that in my car's air conditioning system, it's totally illegal. It's the moronic part of it all. So how do we get it out of the can? We use a device like this. It's called a can tap. We stick that onto the side of the can. It pierces the side of the can, and then we hook the hoses up to the taps. That's of course after I've vacuumed the entire system down. So I'm just going to pause, I'm going to finish putting this back together, and then we will vacuum the system down. Alright, so our system's all tightened back up again. Tightened all that up. We've got the new throttle valve, we've got the new refrigerant O-ring. This is the high pressure side here. You get your high pressure coupling. Force this all the way out, and then it just simply clips on like so. Now when you're tightening these up to release the valve, you don't want to go all the way in because you can bend the Schroeder valve in here. So we're just turning it down till we feel it touch. You can feel the difference in pressure and turning, and then we just stop. The low pressure side coupling is over in here. Take our connector and get it in there. Make sure it's all the way out as well. Undone. Oh, come on, Jesus. As usual, it's much easier when you're doing it two-handed. Is that on? Alright, that's on as well. Just open it up ever so slightly. Alright, so we take our yellow hose. And we stick our yellow hose on our vacuum pump. Make sure that's tight. Yep, it's good and tight. Okay, couplings are on. You make sure these are both closed. Ideally you'd hang it up, but I think our struts are gone. Don't worry. This makes it easier to work on. Alright. Alright, turn on our vacuum pump. make sure the system's all tight, and then we just want to open it up and both sides, and start pulling a vacuum. Just make sure this changes. And then we just let that run for 30 minutes or so. Should be enough to suck all the water out of the system. What you're doing is you're creating a vacuum on the system on both sides, and what that does is when water goes below our normal air pressure, it starts to boil. At room temperature it boils in a vacuum, and it just boils off and it gets sucked through the hoses and then eventually out through the vacuum pump. So we leave it on the system for about 30 minutes, and that should be enough, 45 minutes maybe, and we just let it sit there and just vacuum all of the water out of the system. If there's too much water in the system, this can happen. This is part of the issue. Your refrigeration oil will actually absorb water. That's one of the issues with polyester oil, is that you can put oil into the system, but the oil you're putting into the system has water in it. So this part of it's all about getting all the water out of the system. So we'll just leave that run for a while and we'll come back. And then we can also do a test run to see if the system's got any leaks. We simply stop the vacuum, close these. No, we don't close those off. We just disconnect this, and then we let it sit for an hour or so and see if the needles move. If the needles move, then there's possibly a leak in the system somewhere, because vacuum's escaping. But that's not the problem with this car. So we'll be back in about 40 minutes. Alright, so we've been vacuuming down for about 30 minutes now. I'm just going to close everything off. Everything's closed. Turn the pump off. And if you let the car sit for a further hour just to see if the needles move, that'll tell you if there's a bit of a vacuum leak in the system. I'm not too fussed about that, so I'm just going to do something off camera, obviously. So it's now just a case of just grabbing your can, sticking your can puncture onto it, tapping it, undoing this, after it's on the can, sticking the hose in. So this will then be under pressure up to this point. You then want to undo this and just burp the system, because there will be air in this line, all this line. So you just want to burp it a little bit, get the air out, release a tiny amount of refrigerant, just so any air that's in the system is completely gone. And then open up your low side and start letting the gas flow in. The can, of course, will get quite cold and will freeze because it's expanding rapidly, it's refrigerating. And then just start the car up, turn the air conditioning on, and let it just suck the rest of the can in. And close the system up. And off you go with your nice icy cold Ford Falcon Au air conditioner being nice and icy and cold again. So the total equipment to buy to fix it is what, $150, $180 for all the equipment. The gas, you can just buy it from eBay of all places. You have to make sure it's the proper stuff. It has to be 134A. A lot of the dusters that are sold on eBay are actually butane and propane mixtures. You just read the MSDS file that comes with the brand of gas. And non-flammable, non-toxic. So the MSDS on this says that this is 134A. So, and you know, RS Components, Wagner's, what other places sell it? Anyway, I bought this gas off a supermodel. I found it on the Facebook Marketplace of all places. There was a girl down in Byron Bay area who just so happened to be a supermodel. Her father died and she was just selling all the cartons of gas off, and I went, you beauty. It's quite funny. Yep, so yeah, I'm going to do all the important stuff off camera. I don't like problems. So you guys can work it out for yourself, the rest of it. Hope that helps out.